Scriabin Kites by Chris White, Part 3. Now, before we go on to delve into further theosophic potential meanings, let's take a moment to acknowledge and address some of the complications that accompany connecting geometry with musical meaning. This type of analysis is very different than finding meaning within sonata form deformations by Beethoven, or within harmonic novelties in Liszt. After all, I am imposing mathematical formalizations onto Scriabin's music that the composer never could have possibly known about. How can I possibly get away with this? I find that these geometries are viable interpretive devices for two main reasons. The first is composer-centric, and then the second is listener-centric. First, the composer-centric one. While Scriabin certainly did not have explicit knowledge of these ideas, that doesn't mean that they don't articulate Scriabin's partial or implicit knowledge. That is, as our Theosophic discussions have and will show, Scriabin was very interested in the symmetry and transpositional identity available to certain pitch classes, and the mathematical properties discussed in this study formally described these characteristics. You could sort of imagine Scriabin sitting down at the piano and toying with taking some pitch class set and then moving it up a tritone and seeing what changes, what's different, and then thinking about the theosophic implications about that. And my claim is that the geometries capture something about that process. Now, second, Scriabin's music, and this is the listener-centric one, because of its experimentation and para-religious context, begs the listener to find deeper meaning within it. It's well documented that Scriabin would constantly boast about the deep meaning embedded within his music, but then he'd remain silent as to what actually comprised that meaning. His bold but deliberate musical experimentation invites listeners to make equally bold and deliberate readings of the pieces. Almost unique in the Western musical tradition, Scriabin's music presents vast Rorschach blots, inside which we, as listeners, are invited to find spiritual and theosophic meaning. So now back to the business of boldly and deliberately unearthing this theosophic meaning. First, my geometry recontextualizes old tonal structures in new ways, and this would be a very attractive idea for a theosophist. Scriabin believed that, in the course of the universe, different planes of reality would emerge from one another, revealing sequentially more enlightened and pure states of being. Now, this slide shows a figure from the imagination of Helen Blavatsky, the mother of Theosophy, representing the sequential and evolving astral planes. If Scriabin was developing a more perfect musical language that would affect an evolution of reality, it seems reasonable that he would look for natural geometries and laws embedded within the present musical language, liberating tritones, diminished sevenths, French sixths from their earthly bondage within the mundanity of the tonal system, and elevating them to a more natural or lawful geometry would be very theosophically appealing. My geometries, then, show the evolutionary potential present within chromatic pitch space that Scriabin was tapping into within this opus. So furthermore, a theosophist like Scriabin would be very attracted to the numbers and geometric spatializations embedded in tritone harmonies. The number 6, especially when divided into two triangular groups of 3, was especially powerful to the theosophic worldview. Blavatsky called the triangle, quote, the first geometrical figure, which represents the synthesis of unity and duality. 3 is, after all, the sum of 1, unity, and 2, duality, and that is, in full disclosure, Blavatsky's own reasoning. A 6-pointed star made of 2 conjoined triangles embodies deep universal forces to theosophists, representing various concepts like the 6 forces of nature and the 6 divisions of the human soul. So here I show typical doodles from contemporary theosophic texts combining 2 triangles into 6-pointed stars. Of all the chromatic intervals, the numbers 3 and 6 occur with greatest significance in tritone-based geometries, popping up from enumerations as disparate as interval size, the tritone's 6 half steps, to set class cardinalities. Each set has either 3 or 6 members. Placing these doodles next to my 2-dimensional representation of the 6-pointed kite highlights my space's analogy with theosophic concerns. Now, on the one hand, the visual similitude is complete happenstance. As I said before, I'm certainly not suggesting that Scriabin realized that tritone voice leading could be mapped with the same 2 interwoven triangles as the duals of the human soul. Now, on the other hand, the motivations that cause someone to theorize the human soul in such a manner are the same as the motivations that cause a composer to saturate his music with tritones. So again, you can imagine Scriabin at the piano playing a fully diminished chord, counting up the 6 tritones in that, the 6 semitones in that tritone, and then there's 3 between the minor third, and then thinking that there are 2 interlocking 6s and 3s going on there, and being intrigued with the potential theosophic connections. And that doesn't mean that he's, seeing these explicit triangles coming out, but sort of realizing that there's a bunch of 6 and a bunch of 3 going on in this tritone space. In different ways, both of these pictures here potentially captivated Scriabin and influenced his compositions, the left explicitly and the right implicitly. By connecting geometries of 2 tritone sets to theosophic concerns, my analysis offers a venue to reinvest theosophic mystery in Scriabin's harmony and voice leading. Now, thank you all for listening. Feel free to contact me at christopher.w.white@yale.edu if you have any questions or concerns or interests in this work. Again, thanks a lot for listening.